Hello everyone, and welcome again to Nettle, the go-to place to learn about finance, econometrics, data analytics, and much more. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that bell notification button below so that you never miss fresh videos and tutorials you might be interested in. My name is Sava, and today we're investigating a second approach to calculate the covariance matrix of maximum likelihood estimation models beyond the outer product of gradients approach that we investigated in one of the previous videos. And this approach is a bit more sophisticated and has more robust uses than the OPG approach. And this is the Hessian matrix approach. The Hessian matrix is an object in mathematics and statistics in general, which essentially is the matrix of second partial derivatives of a function. And today we are applying it to the log likelihood function. And the example I'll showcase it based on is the GARCH model. Obviously this works for any model with the maximum likelihood estimation. However, it's quite a common maximum likelihood model in finance, the GARCH model. So what we have here to start with are daily returns of an S&P 500 tracker fund, conditional variance. We estimate the first day based on the long run variance, based on the omega, alpha, and beta parameters. So unconditional variance, the persistence of realized variance, and persistence of conditional variance. And then every following day, the variance is behaving just according to the GARCH process. And obviously, for the Hessian matrix to work, we need to calculate not only the first derivatives, but also the second derivatives of the log likelihood function. And for that, we'll need to estimate the log likelihood of a model subject to a lot of different tweaks to the parameters. Because obviously, in a general case, we cannot calculate the second order derivatives as a closed form. We have to use their numerical approximations. And that would mean we'll have to vary them by a small step, say 0.0001, so 10 to the negative 4, 1/10,000th, and see how the log likelihood changes. So the log likelihood based on conditional variance is pretty straightforward. That's just the sum of log likelihoods, so essentially sum of log of likelihoods, so normal distribution. We need to plug our x variable, and that is the same throughout, so logged throughout the returns. The mean is just the mu parameter. The standard deviation is the square root of conditional variances for individual observations. And then we plug 0 for the probability density function, which is likelihood. This would work, but for further robustness, I'll plug in the if error function on top of the log and say that if it returns an error, return some large negative number, so say minus 1,000. And so the log likelihood of this model, that's the model that has been optimized already, is here. So now we'll be able to tweak the parameters of this model gradually by small increments and see how this affects log likelihood, which will allow us to calculate the second order empirical derivatives, so essentially approximations of second order derivatives. For that, we'll need to make sure that we have enough estimations to produce all of those estimates. So first of all, we'll have to increase each variable by one step and by 2 steps. That would allow us to calculate second order derivatives of the log likelihood function with respect to those parameters in particular. So essentially the second derivative of log likelihood on mu squared, for instance. So it will be the second derivative with respect to mu, or omega, or alpha, or beta. So for that, we'll need to change. So let's say that we'll start with zeros, and we'll change mu once and twice, we change omega once and twice, we change alpha once and twice, and we change beta once and twice. So that allows us to calculate the diagonal of the Hessian matrix already. So this diagonal will already be populated with the estimates, the empirical second derivatives with respect to mu, omega, alpha, and beta. However, we also need to fill in the off-diagonal elements here, and that involves second order derivatives with respect to, for instance, mu and omega, mu and alpha, mu and beta, and so on. And here we just need to be careful not to miss any of the pairwise combinations. So mu and omega, mu and alpha, mu and beta, then we have omega and alpha, omega and beta. Omega and mu is the same as mu and omega, so we don't have to worry about it, for instance. And finally, alpha and beta. So here we see there is some nice symmetry. And we have to do overall 14 different estimations. And that's not a coincidence, it's not a surprise, because with the initial observation that's 15, and that's essentially the fifth triangle number. So yeah, so 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 15. That is because of how fast this number of iteration scales with the increase of the number of necessary parameters. So this scales quadratically, essentially. So if we had just one parameter, we'll need the baseline and then the two modified models here. If we had two parameters, we also need to vary the those two parameters as well, and we'll need to vary both of them. And this is how it goes. So for 1 we have 3, for 2 we have 6, for 3 we'll have 10. And for 4 we have 15. And you see how it scales quadratically as we increase the number of parameters. And now, because we have produced this template, we can, in one go, calculate the iterated or the increased values of parameters in corresponding estimations. So to original values of parameters, we add the step times the increment matrix at the top. And we see it correctly increases mu here by 1 step by 2 steps, omega by 1 step by 2 steps. Everything else is left as it should be, intact. Then alpha, then beta. Here we increase omega and mu by 1 step each, and so on. And now, because of how we calculate conditional variance, we can drag it across, and that would correctly correspond to the same returns but different, slightly tweaked parameters. And we can also drag the log likelihood calculation across, and again this would correctly refer to the necessary parameters. So, having computed log likelihoods for all the relevant iterations, we can proceed with filling in the Hessian matrix. So, first of all, let's populate the diagonal. So, the empirical second order derivative with respect to mu, for instance, would be the log likelihood when we increase mu twice, minus 2 times the estimation we increased mu just once, plus the original, and we divide it by step squared. So we see that's the element of the Hessian matrix for mu and mu. So that's the second derivative of the log likelihood function with respect to mu twice. For omega, we need to subtract from the estimate where we increase omega twice, 2 times the estimate when we increase omega once, plus the original divided by step squared. Again, those estimates are negative. That is to be expected, because the second derivative values at the maximum should be negative. Then for alpha, again, very similar analogy, and similarly for beta. And now we have to fill in the off-diagonal elements. We have to fill them in just once, because this matrix is symmetric. The derivative with respect to mu omega is the same as the derivative with respect to omega mu. So here, mu omega, the estimate when we increased both mu and omega, minus the estimates when we increased both of them once, plus the original one, divided by step squared. Obviously, if you increased the different parameters by different amounts, would have divided this by the product of those respective amounts for variable mu and for variable omega. Here, we change all of them by the same amount, by the same step, so we can continue to divide by step squared. Now, mu alpha, the log likelihood where we had increased mu and alpha, minus the log likelihoods for the estimates where we increased them both once independently, plus the original, and divided by the step squared. Now, off-diagonal elements can be positive. That doesn't mean that our estimation is wrong. You don't have to worry about it. For mu and beta, we can input the log likelihood for the estimate where mu and beta both increase once, minus the independent increases of beta and mu and their log likelihood plus the original log likelihood divided by step squared. Then for alpha and omega and alpha here, minus the omega minus the alpha plus the original log likelihood divided by step squared. Omega and beta, here we've got the log likelihood when we increase them both, minus log likelihood when we increase just omega, minus just beta, minus log likelihood when we increase just beta, minus the log likelihood when we increase just omega, plus the original log likelihood, and divided by step squared. And finally, when we increase alpha and beta, that's our log likelihood. That's what it is when we increase just beta. That's what it is when we increase just alpha. That's what it is when we have not increased either, divided by step squared. That completes the matrix. Now we just have to complete it based on symmetry. And now for the covariance matrix, we just have to find the inverse of the Hessian. The only consideration here is that for our covariance matrix to be positive, we have to put a minus in front of the Hessian, again, as the second derivatives at the maximum are quite expectedly negative. And that produces a covariance matrix estimate. Again, we are looking at the diagonal mostly because those are the variances of individual parameters, meaning that the square roots of the diagonal elements are the standard errors of the parameters of interest. So here are our coefficients. Standard errors, well, square root of the diagonal elements. And now we can calculate z-stats and p-values based on a two-tailed z-test. So absolute value of the z-stat and cumulative distribution. What we see is that the standard errors that we have obtained are quite close to those that we have obtained from the OPG method in one of the previous videos. So if we compare these, just for information purposes, we'll see that indeed the standard errors for the OPG method are lower, and sometimes considerably lower. For instance, the one for mu is just slightly lower, but the one for omega is a lot lower. so are the ones for alpha and beta. And that is the limitation of the OPG approach, is that it underestimates standard errors, especially in small samples, whereas the Hessian matrix approach produces a more reliable estimate, but the Hessian matrix approach is very sensitive to misspecification. So for instance, if there is non-GARCH heteroscedasticity in our model that we have not accounted for, if there is autocorrelation in residuals, so our log likelihood of individual parameters are not independent, or if, for instance, our model is misspecified in the sense that we are using GARCH 1.1, but we should have used GARCH 2.3, or T-GARCH 1.1, or we should have used another distribution. Well, in this case, the Hessian matrix is quite sensitive to those misspecifications and might provide misleading standard errors. So both of them have their own applications, and it's useful to know both methods and apply them side by side, or maybe aggregate them into one estimate, which would resolve the problem with the Hessian matrix approach, that it is not necessarily robust to misspecification. Also, what is quite visibly a limitation of the Hessian matrix is that it requires a lot of computation and a quadratic number of estimations based on number of parameters. So if we have, for instance, 10 parameters, we might have estimated even more individual log likelihoods, whereas for the OPG approach, our number of estimations scales linearly with number of parameters. It's just one gradient, so no need to calculate second derivatives. But on the other hand, the Hessian matrix approach is less bulky, as it relies on essentially full sample estimates of log likelihood, as here for instance, and not on gradients for individual observations. So in terms of computational complexity, it's again has a lot of shortcomings compared to the outer product of gradients, the OPG approach, but it also has some advantages over it, as it does not require to calculate the gradient for every single observation. Implementations of both of these are widely available in statistical packages, but now you know how to produce your own Hessian matrix covariance estimator in Excel. And in the next video, we'll learn how to combine them both into the so-called sandwich covariance matrix estimator for maximum likelihood models. Please leave a like on this video if you found it helpful. In the comments below, I'll make any further suggestions for videos you would like me to record. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much, and stay tuned.